In 1623, a noble family in Eastern Europe vanished overnight. Servants found the castle halls flooded with blood dripping from the walls, seeping from the ceilings and pooling on the floors. No bodies were ever recovered, and to this day, locals call it the Castle That Bled. Hi everyone. Welcome to my channel, and today we are exploring a castle soaked in blood. If you like stories like these, please consider supporting me for more content. But enough about that. Let's get into the video. Now, before we begin, I want to let you know that most of what we will discuss today is taken from legend and hearsay. There are no written records of many of these events, and as such, it is difficult to tell fact from fiction. However, the story is so fascinating that I couldn't resist sharing it with you. So, here we go. Many centuries ago, there stood a castle high up in the mountains of Eastern Europe. Today, its exact location is unknown, but locals say it was probably somewhere around here. Now it's just a ruin, but back then it was a stronghold of wealth and power belonging to a noble house named von Kessler. They were an ancient lineage said to have descended from Hungarian royalty, having grown rich over the years through trade and conquest. Their lands were vast, their coffers heavy, and their influence great. But underneath that veneer of wealth and power lurked something sinister, for the von Kessler family were rumored to be among the cruelest and most sadistic nobles in all the realm. Whispers traveled from village to village, telling tales of their dark deeds. It was said that in the castle's dungeons they shackled and tortured prisoners, extracting confessions and bending wills until the victims died. Some even claimed that the castle's chapel was used for the worst kind of sorcery, that the family performed blood rituals under the guise of prayer, summoning evil entities from beyond our world. The very stones of the castle absorbed their screams and drank their tears, and when the servants hurried through the halls, they swore they could hear the walls weeping softly to itself. But one winter night in 1623, the legends say something terrible happened. Around midnight, the neighbors saw a strange red light glowing from the castle windows, an unnatural color that seemed to pulse and breathe. At first, they thought nothing of it, assuming it was some trick of the shadows or perhaps the reflection of a dying ember. But as the hours passed, the glow grew brighter and brighter until it filled every window like the stare of a beast. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it was gone. By dawn, everything was silent. No guards could be seen pacing the battlements, no smoke curling lazily from the chimneys. All was still and empty. When the servants finally gathered up the courage to enter the castle, they found a sight that turned their blood to water. Blood streamed out from between the stones, soaking the courtyard and cascading down the walls. Inside, every room was filled with the same horrifying tableau: furniture overturned, tapestries ripped, corpses strewn across the floors. Everywhere the servants looked, they saw only death. Yet none of those bodies were the family's. It was as if someone had murdered everyone in the castle, yet spared the owners. So they searched everywhere, in the library where the Lord liked to read, The ballroom where the lady danced, the nursery where the children played, but could not find a single trace of the noble family. Even more disturbing, they looked behind the tapestry, beneath the beds, even in the stone gargoyles, but found nothing. The castle had bled that night, but it had swallowed its masters whole. Next, church officials arrived, hoping to cleanse the castle with holy water and drive out whatever evil had been brewing within its walls. But no sooner had the priests stepped inside than they began to choke and gasp for breath, blood trickling from their lips and eyes. They staggered out, babbling incoherently about devils and damnation, and collapsed in the courtyard, lifeless. Thus, the castle was sealed, officially declared a cursed place, tainted by the devil himself. Travelers passing by in the following years reported hearing screams echoing from within, though they were too afraid to venture close enough for a better look. Some even claimed to see bloody handprints creeping across the windows as night fell, as if the castle's wounds were oozing out onto the glass. Then, one day, explorers entered, hoping to uncover the truth behind the legend. They found nothing but empty rooms and silent halls, a few bones and tattered garments left behind in the rubble. As they made their way deeper into the building, however, some began to feel sick. Their heads pounded and their vision blurred. Others suddenly found themselves kneeling before the altar in the chapel, as if drawn by some invisible force. Still others swore they heard chains dragging in the basement and footsteps padding overhead, though when they turned around, nobody was there. Sometime later, one of the explorers stumbled upon a hidden passage behind the fireplace in the Lord's quarters. It led down a narrow tunnel into the darkness. Beneath the castle, what they found there disturbed them greatly. Ancient shackles lay embedded in the stone, alongside other instruments of torture and execution. One explorer, overcome with a sudden nosebleed, fainted right there in the dirt. When he came to, he fled without a word, never looking back. Those who stayed behind continued searching, eventually discovering an old ledger hidden inside the floorboards. Its pages detailed the history of the castle and its inhabitants, but also contained some disturbing entries from the last days of the noble house. The final entry read, "The ritual is nigh complete. Soon our blood will flow as one with the stones. We shall be the castle, and the castle shall be us." Then, on the night of February 1623, the following was scrawled in a shaky hand: "They come. The hunger is real. We must bind them forever." After that, the book ended abruptly, leaving many questions unanswered. But perhaps it was for the best, for outside, the sky began to darken and thunder rumbled in the distance. Just then, a cold wind swept through the chimney, extinguishing their torches and sending them tumbling to the ground. As they groped around in the suddenly pitch-black room, their hands brushed against something soft and yielding. They cried out in surprise and scrambled away, but whatever it was, it moved closer, breathing heavily. Then, as if summoned by the very mention of its name, the thing spoke, hissing, "Who disturbs my slumber?" Who dares wake the castle? Terrified, the explorers fled, stumbling blindly through the tunnels, tripping over loose stones and falling into pits. Finally, they burst out of the castle, gasping for breath and drenched in sweat. As the rain began to fall in earnest, they didn't stop running until they reached the safety of the village, where they told their tale to whoever would listen. Most dismissed their story as nonsense, the product of overactive imaginations and perhaps a few too many torchlit ghost stories. Others, however, believed every word, warning everyone to stay away from the castle. Yet still, some dared to return, lured by the promise of fame and fortune, eager to prove the legends wrong. But none ever came back. Some disappeared inside the castle, others emerged only to vanish without a trace a few days later. Still, others staggered out, babbling incoherently about unspeakable horrors and bleeding profusely from every orifice. Today, the castle remains deep in the forest, avoided by all but the most intrepid explorers. And when storms brew in the mountains, locals claim that the walls weep blood once more, soaking the earth around them, quenching the never-ending thirst of the castle that drank. So now I'm gonna ask you, would you dare step inside a castle where blood flows without end and the family who built it still screams from the walls? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about haunted places and dark legends from around the world, then make sure to subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching. Until next time, remember, the stones remember, and they hunger still.